Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Deep Woods Paranormal Podcast, where basically we talk about everything paranormal. We sometimes talk about locations we've been to, sometimes we talk about different investigations that are coming up and stuff like that. So, anyways, without further ado, what we're going to be talking about today is poltergeist activity. I'm sure everybody has seen the movie Poltergeist or the remake of the movie. Um, they did a pretty good job with the movies. I think that it kind of covers poltergeist activity to a certain extent. Of course, they overdid it because it's a movie. I mean, it's meant to be entertaining and stuff. But I can kind of talk about three different locations that I know have had poltergeist activity. One of the locations was the location that Amanda and I lived at for about 2 years, and we had a lot of strange things happen in that house. So, if you listen to other podcasts, you kind of heard me talk about certain stories from this location, but let me start out with explaining what a poltergeist is. So, poltergeist is actually two words. It's a German word meaning noisy ghost. Polter is noisy, and Geist is ghost. And essentially, that word came to be like in like the 1840s, 1850s, something like that. And it kind of caught fire over here in the day, I guess. So it's a very popular word. So poltergeist activity, most people associate it with seeing a little kid, usually a little girl, cupboards opening, um, wet spots, on the floor, like puddles of water, stuff like that. And I've experienced all that, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, I don't know. So let's start out with the first location. First location I ever got called to, the cupboards were flying open. Essentially, they were calling because they wanted to figure out what was going on. The cupboards were coming open. The radio on the computer would turn on in the middle of the night, and the speakers would be turned all the way up, which they were turned all the way back down before they went to bed. It would wake them up at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Um, they would hear somebody walking up and down the stairs at night. When the daughter was home alone, she would experience things, but nothing ever that was harmful. It was always just kind of playful, and just other things that would happen. And so I got called in, and I went over there, and my job is to basically take away the fear. I want to find out, number one, the who, the what, the why, the when, and the where. So that's what I did. And I set up some K2s. I set up an audio recorder, and we did an EVP session, and started asking questions. Well, us, we investigate with our clientele. So we had the daughter and the mom there, and they actually got to ask questions. And so they started asking questions about who was there, and we didn't really get any answers. We said, "Are you male?" And it lit up. Like I said, "Okay, are you a female?" And it didn't light up. She had a 13-year-old teenage daughter, which is usually one of the types of cases where poltergeist activity comes from. When you have a young child, anywhere from 13 to 19, um, they can create poltergeist activity just basically by projecting their energy. Teenage girls seem to have a lot of energy, and sometimes spirits will feed off that energy and will do different things to act out. Kind of getting more into detail about poltergeist activity. It also can be other things. It can also be basically just somebody who's disabled and they're frustrated, they can't move, they can't walk or whatever, and so they project energy out. People don't know that we actually just, our bodies are energy. Our brains send out electrical currents and stuff like that, and into our other, down our nerves, into our bodies to make our fingers move and our mouths move and our legs move and all that stuff. Well, poltergeist activity is an amplification of this. Um, this kind of goes into the realm of, can we actually move stuff with our minds, and can we actually project, you know, things. So I don't really want to go down that rabbit hole because we'll be here all day talking about that. But I do want to talk about, what happened in this case. So I'm thinking this is poltergeist activity because the cupboard doors are opening, um, the radio is turning on the computer full blast for no reason. The daughter's experiencing a lot of that activity. So as we went through the K2 session, like I said, we started out asking male or female questions, and the first thing that lit up for male, so we knew it was a male. And as we went through, we started having them ask questions about based off of what they were experiencing. Why do you turn the radio on? Why do you, bang on my door at night? Why are you, doing all this other stuff? And the more questions we asked, the more K2s we started getting lining up. We kind of figured out that they had a relative that passed away recently. It was one of the uncles. It was her brother that passed away, and he was very close with the family. But he was just, one of those people that like to play pranks, my kind of guy. And so he essentially just wanted to get their attention. He wanted to let them know that he was okay. Unfortunately, after he passed, there wasn't a lot of communication with other family members, and he kind of died quickly out of nowhere. And so he was just turning on the radio and opening the cupboards to get their attention to let them know that he was there and that he was okay. And they got to ask lots of questions. Are you okay? Did you pass over? And he answered yes with the K2. And after we did that, we kind of did a closing with him, and we said, hey, it's fine if you want. We asked them if it was okay, the family members, if it was okay for him to stay, and they said yes. They enjoyed having him around, and so everything kind of worked out. The fear got taken away. The poltergeist activity did slow down and stop. They do have activity here and there, but they talk to him like he's there now. And it was a cool case. It was a lot of fun, and I learned a lot. But we also had like a friend that has poltergeist activity in her apartment um, on camera, and we posted this video to our Facebook page, and I believe it might even be on our YouTube channel. I'm not sure if it is or not. But we essentially, as she was talking to my wife on video conference, the cabinet door above the refrigerator flew open. And so then also she recorded, she left the camera sitting watching the mantle because this trophy that she had won through work kept moving. And actually, she found it on the ground one day when she came home. So she wanted to know what was going on, and she knew that we were part of the paranormal and team, and we do that kind of research. So we advised her to leave the camera, and so she documented her own activity. She actually caught the damn statue moving on its own. It was crazy. This thing slid literally across like an inch. It actually moved and turned on its own. And then she had other activity like footsteps, and I think she may have even seen an apparition in the house. And I'm pretty sure it was some kind of a male entity. But the more research she kind of did, the more activity she got, and so she kind of slowed down. And I don't know if she's still doing research or not, but she still acknowledges the spirit there. I forget what she named it, but it was something funny, and I think the spirit enjoyed it as well. So again, another case that worked out well. She was able to document some activity, and basically just had a good time with it. Still enjoys it. So the third case, this was actually something that Amanda and I were doing. This is from back in the late middle 2000s when I think it was our second apartment. We had just moved into a location in Tustin, California. Sorry for moving the camera there. So essentially, we had moved into this location. It just kind of felt strange. What it was is it almost like an H. You'd walk in, and there'd be the kitchen, and then there'd be the little dining room area that was open, of course, and then the living room. And then there's a short hallway, maybe 10 feet long. And then there was dual masters with dual master bathrooms. We took the one on the right as you walk down the hall, and the one on the left I'm so glad we didn't take that bedroom. That bedroom was weird. Middle of summer. It's 100 degrees out. It's probably about mid 70s in the apartment complex. I mean, inside the apartment. But man, it was freezing cold in there. I mean, you walk in there, and you could literally see your breath. I had to do research and stuff, and I'd be typing on the computer, and all of a sudden it would just be like freezing cold. I'd be wearing a jacket with the air conditioning basically set at like 78, which for me is hot. I'm used to it being down in like the low 70s or high 60s, and I could see my breath, and I could just feel something in there with me, and it was not very happy about me being there for some reason. But as time went on, and I was going to college at that time, as time went on, um, other strange things started happening. There was a weird thing with water, like the faucets would turn on, and we'd be like, "What in the world?" And we'd go turn them back off. In the middle of the night, they would just turn on. Couldn't figure that out. We figured it was just some kind of plumbing issue. And then we would, like, I walked into the kitchen one night, and I stepped in a puddle of water, and I went, "Oh, dang it, it's the dogs. The dog peed in the." So I go down there to wipe it up, and I'm like smelling it, and it's like, okay, this is not pee, it's just water. And I wiped it up and looked at the towel, and I smelled the towel. There's no smell to it, it's just water. So as time went on, different puddles of water would just appear in different places. And we thought it was a slab leak. They came in, the apartment maintenance came in, and there's no pipes under this area. There shouldn't be any water. They pulled the carpet up. There's no crack. There's no leaks anywhere. That hallway, I actually video recorded um, this little dot of water appearing, and it grew into a puddle right in front of my face. And I'm like, what in the world is going on? And we could never figure that out. Other strange things happened in that place. We had a saltwater aquarium, and I went from a Plex aquarium to a glass aquarium, and it held about 50 gallons. And so we left it for the night. We left for the night. We went out with friends. We came back, and literally there's just water everywhere. When we walked in, we're like, what the world happened? And we're like, okay, there has to be some kind of leak somewhere. And we're looking at the sinks, and also we look over the aquarium. It's literally cracked all the way along the back, like somebody had stuck in the aquarium. Let me start with the aquarium was like an inch away from the wall, and there was like a circular dot, like something like if you had a rock hit your windshield and it cracks your windshield and leaves a little circle. That's what it looked like. So like something had hit the back of the aquarium really hard, and that glass was probably about a quarter-inch thick. So it wasn't thin. It would be really hard to break that glass. So whatever hit it from the back, cracked it all the way across, and water had just been pouring out of there like crazy. So I don't understand what caused that to happen. Another time, I came back and I found again water all over the floor, and essentially someone had unplugged the sump pump underneath. What basically a sump pump is, it's another tank that's underneath the aquarium, and what it does is when water overflows the top of the aquarium, it gets so close to the top, it goes down a tube into this other tank. And it goes through a water filter to basically keep the water fresh and healthy, and then it pumps it back up. Well, somebody had basically unplugged that pump, and so nobody was there. It was just my wife and I living there. She had gone to work. I left for work. I came home before her, and I plugged the pump back in, and all of a sudden it starts going again. But it had filled up all the way to the top. That pump only filled about 3 inches. So that tank down below was only supposed to fill about 3 inches high, just enough for the pump to pump it back up. So I have no idea who physically unplugged that. There was no way, I know the dogs could have done it. It was plugged into the wall behind the tank. So again, another strange incident. Another story, and I think I've talked about this before. The serviceman one time was talking to me because he knew I was into ghosts. He's like, yeah, there's this little girl that's seen all over the place. So I'm like, oh, okay, that's interesting. So I walk into the guest bedroom, or the second master, and I'm in there, and again, it's freezing cold, middle of summer, and we had a closet in there, and we hung our jackets and stuff up there, and it was said to rain that day. So I was on my way to school. I was going to college at the time. I set my books down in the kitchen on the counter, walked in there, and I essentially went to grab a jacket. And as I reached up, I was literally reaching up like this. I felt my shirt get tugged, my shirt underneath my arm get tugged, doot, doot, doot. And I'm like, what in the world? And I kind of looked down like this, and I glanced down, and I see this little girl. And I'm like, oh no, where the hell did you just come from? Why is there a little girl? She looked real. I mean, she looked just as solid as me. Where did this little girl come from, and why is she tugging my shirt? It's like, okay. And I glanced back up and grabbed my jacket. By the time I glanced back down, she was gone. And I just ignored her. I figured that I was in a hurry. I was just trying to get out of the place. So I ran back out, and I completely forgot about my books. I ran back out and got in my car, and I realized, oh crap, I forgot my books. So I ran back in, and I'm looking all over the place for my books. And I'm going, okay, what in the world? Where did where did I leave my books? Retraced my steps, couldn't find them anywhere. And then all of a sudden it hits me, oh no, little girl. So I said, okay, little girl, I'm so sorry I didn't acknowledge you before. Can you please return my stuff? Next time I'll acknowledge you, or whatever I said. And so walked in the other guest bedroom because I thought maybe I left him in the counter in that bathroom or something like that. Maybe I sat down before I grabbed my jacket. Walked back out, and there's my books underneath the tablecloth with the flowers and vase sitting on top. And I'm like, oh, okay. So she's playful. And I had to pull the flowers off, had to pull the tablecloth off, pull my books out from underneath all of that, recover the table, put the vase back on, and then ran out the door because I was late for school. And just that's the kind of stuff that happened in that place. One day we had what looked like, I don't know, I wouldn't say it was a hellhound, but some kind of weird dog come in from outside. We would leave the screen door open for the dogs, and basically from our bedroom, we had a sliding glass door in our bedroom for our apartment. We had a huge wall out there. I mean, it had just the normal wall that you normally have, and they actually had put flex above that, so it was above my head. So basically, anything to get in or out of there would have to have climbed through a very narrow area, about 7 or 8 feet tall, which is above my head, to get in there. But this dog comes flying in. I thought it was either a wolf or a coyote. Comes flying in. I looked down. Both of our dogs at the time were laying at the end of the bed, and both of them kind of looked up, and they looked and they saw this dog, and then I went right back out through the door and disappeared. I got up and I'm like, holy crap! I had a big mag light at that time. I took this big mag light. I'm like ready to try to scare this animal out of my backyard. I slid the door closed, and I'm like, well, what the hell was that? And unfortunately, Amanda didn't see it, but I'm like, whoa, what was that? I think that's one of the scariest things that ever happened to me in the paranormal. This has happened. Well, I've had my bed messed with twice, and this is one of those occasions where I was laying there, well, we were laying there. We had a queen size bed, and we had a little shelf, a little bit, like looking behind me if you're watching the YouTube video of this podcast. There was a shelf about the height of the one over here, and let's say basically the bed post was about where the top of this chair is. And so I'm laying there, and Amanda's asleep, and the TV on, and I was almost asleep myself. Dogs were sleeping, and all of a sudden, I feel my side of the bed start to tilt up, as if somebody's lifting it. And I felt it lift up, and as I'm sitting there, I just start sliding, and I hit Amanda, because she always sleeps to my right. And I'm like, well, what the hell? And I felt something crawl under our bed. That was creepy as hell. I don't know what it was. I think it was I know it was some kind of ghost or something. I don't think it was anything else. I don't know what that could have been. It was just strange. It was definitely some kind of ghostly or it was either ghost or poltergeist activity. Um, and why anything would crawl into the bed, just I still don't know that to this day. But anyways, long story short, the bed came back. I was expecting the bed just go boom and fall back down, but it didn't. It actually just slowly but surely set back down, and I was able to go back to sleep. And in the morning, I looked under there. I couldn't find anything, but I know it happened. And I tried to explain it to Nana. She's like, "Well, what are you talking about? You're nuts. I didn't feel anything." I'm like, "You were totally sleeping." So, anyways, yeah, that was very strange. And just other strange things happened as time went on in that location. But again, that's kind of my poltergeist activity story. We've had other places where we've had strange activity, like the one, I think it was the next apartment complex we lived in, Laguna Hills, where that door would always, it would just open and close by itself in that one room. I'm pretty sure something happened to somebody in that room. It was always, again, always freezing cold in one of the extra bedrooms. We always had a two-bedroom, and one of the bedrooms, her Amaya's friend stayed with us for a while, and she said it was always freezing cold in there. And when she moved out, I moved my computer in there to basically do schoolwork and other stuff, and I would basically put a box or something in front of that door, and that door in the middle of the night would start to open and hit the box and close and hit the door, hit the wall, doot 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 doot, and then finally we just moved the box away and let it open, and it started making this knocking sound like it was just knocking, 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 knocking. And as the door would slide back and forth, and it wouldn't go all the way open or all the way closed. It would slide about 6 inches open and then slide 6 inches closed, and this would continue on for half an hour, 45 minutes. And I'm like, what in the world? I don't know if that's ghost activity or what it was. It was just strange. I would attribute it more to poltergeist activity. Something wanted something and wanted to get our attention, but it just didn't seem to know how to do it. And at that point in time, we were researching the paranormal, but we weren't recording audio, recording video at that point in time. We didn't really know what we were doing with that. So, anyways, like I said, I've worked lots of cases, thousands of cases. Poltergeist activity is very few and far between. A lot of the time it has to do with teenage girls, just because as they go through their changes, basically, they project energy out. And sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. Sometimes the poltergeist activity can actually be attributed to, someone's frustration or whatever, and it actually creates its own entity, and that entity acts out in negative ways. It's almost like a demonic entity, but it's not. And you can't really clear that out of the house. You have to basically get that person, you have to help that person heal. And essentially, it's just a different type of poltergeist activity. You have to kind of deal with what's going on with them to heal the situation, to fix the situation. And that's extremely hard. And again, that's very few and far between. But anyways, so that's my take on poltergeist activity. They are, like I said, very few and far between. But when you do get those cases, they're very interesting because the entities seem to be more likely to interact with you and do cool things, move things, and stuff like that you can actually document. So, anyways, I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for listening and watching this podcast. You guys have a great day, and I don't know what we're going to be talking about next week, but hopefully Matt will be back on with me, and we'll be talking about some interesting stuff. I think we're going to be doing a UFO case here next week. Next weekend, we were just testing out some gear recently. We got a new telescope that records video. I just got some new night vision binoculars, actually for Bigfoot research, but I think they'll work for the UFO research too. We're looking up in the sky and trying to see if we can see anything. Unfortunately, it's a little cloudy, and we some rain over the weekend. But anyways, you guys have a great day. Stay tuned for the next podcast. We might be talking about UFOs. So, all right, guys, you have a great day.